I can't sing. My wife won't let me sing. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being with us. You're here with Raymond Smith and Sandra Johnson, and we have our guest host, John McClain. Say hi, John.
Hey.
On our show today, we have Jon Lambros, who is the team leader for the DeBerry State Farm Agency. And later on the show, we'll have Mr. Willie Blake, who is the commissioner of the city of Tucson, to talk about his community efforts he's doing throughout the town. So we'll start off with John. How you doing today, John?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Letting everybody know John is a very, very good friend of the family. We're so glad to have him on the show. But he's also a very talented State Farm team leader. So with that being said, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the family.
Yeah, so I've been married to my wife for 10 years as of last March. So
does she have a name?
11. Her name is Bethany. And then I have
There's going to be a lot of this coming. I see it. A little jab.
I'll get them once the mics are muted. And then I have 4 daughters, Ruby, Junebug, Kira, and Ophelia.
I love those names. Very nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been with State Farm? Oh, with Tom DeBerry.
So I've been with Tom for 10 years, a little over 10 years, and then State Farm for 12. Insurance for 12 years that whole time.
And you're from Tucson, right?
Yeah, born and raised.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is my wife.
So would you call yourself a Tucsonian or a Tucsonan?
I say Tucsonan.
Okay, well,
Is this a
thanks for
topic of
validating.
conversation?
Thanks for
Man, we should do a
validating
poll
that.
on that one. That's a hot question.
Tucsonan, yeah.
Yeah, we need to poll that from now on and find out how many people say
Absolutely.
Tucsonan and Tucsonian.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one to put online.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you here today, John, was because home property values have definitely gone up in the last few years and at a really pretty brisk pace.
Mhm.
So my first question to you is, do you find that most homeowners are undervaluing the value of their policy as far as insuring their homes?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get asked this very frequently with what's going on in the market, what has been going. A lot of people are calling and asking about that. The first thing we always try to clear up with the clients is, from the insurance end, we're not necessarily looking at the market value of the home, because if that home burns down, we're not cutting you a check for whatever the market says. We're actually rebuilding the home for you, right? So that might have some relationship to the market, but it's not going to just be, a lazy insurance agent will just say, "What'd you buy the house for?" Okay, here's what we're paying for that, right?
Gotcha.
So we have tools that we get from third-party companies in the industry that will develop, different things, building material costs and labor locally, and we use that to develop a rebuild cost for the home. It's not necessarily the market value.
Okay, well, I think equal in pace to the market value has been the cost of those materials.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been seeing clients coming in, we'll review that, and we will increase that. That's been pretty true for the past couple of years. But again, it's not, hey, I just looked at Zillow and my house says it's worth this. Okay, let's increase it, right? There's a lot more we want to go through with you. If you take your house and you put it on a beach in Malibu, it's going to be worth a heck of a lot more money, right?
That'd be great
Construction costs are more in Malibu, but it's not going to be $6 million more, right? So we want to look at that, look at the variables there.
How often do you think that homeowner should review their policy with you?
We recommend that actual rebuild cost estimate. We recommend doing that every few years.
Okay.
So if it's been 3-4 years and a client comes in, we'll pop that up and just take a look at it. Of course, if you do any work on your home, if you do an addition, if you put in a guest house, whatever it may be, you want to call us while that's going up, right? But every 3 to 4 years, we try to have a pretty robust review system with our clients where we're getting them in every other year anyway. So usually that gets covered. But if your agent isn't doing that, call every few years and ask if you can come in.
And at what point would you say, like during a remodel, if I'm just remodeling my bathroom, probably not going to have a huge impact on that policy, but at what point would you say, yeah, that's pretty significant and you might want to review it with your agent?
Yeah, most homeowners policies have an automatic buffer in it. So if you have a $500,000 house, you might have a 20% or a 30% buffer. So
Okay.
really your home's insured for 120, 130% of that number.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So if you put in new windows, hey, it was 10 grand or 15 grand for new windows, you might want to call, but that's probably not going to be something where you're way out of the range that your home's already at, right? But if you're doing something major, hey, we just redid all the bathrooms in the kitchen, we just added on square footage, then you're going to want to call.
Is there a big difference between new builds and homes that are established?
Yes and no. The new builds often get a much better rating insurance-wise, just
Okay.
because they know everything's new. They know there's not going to be any problems with the roof. There's probably not going to be any problems with the roof.
Good
right?
call.
You guys might have some different answers for that.
Good call, John.
But yeah, in general, it's a little bit more neat and tidy with a new build, and your rate tends to be a little bit better. Not a massive amount. It's not going to be we chose new build because of the insurance cost. That'll never affect that decision.
John, during the COVID time, did you guys see more business or less business during that time?
I think with where we were at, just being in Arizona, we actually saw, we were expecting a pretty big dip, and we actually saw staying about the same, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
A lot of that is, we try to position ourselves so that if there are folks moving into town, we're one of the top agencies that come up if you search State Farm, Tucson, right? And so we found there was just a really large influx of folks moving in from other states, coming in, and we were able to help those folks out.
Interesting.
We
There's not too
do-
many industries that actually were able to sustain and even thrive in a way during COVID. So to hear that insurance industry did, that's good. Because certainly, I'm sure there's a lot of stability in your life with $4, which is much needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when everything happened and we kind of realized the severity of it, mine and Tom's biggest thing was just, I really hope we don't have to let anyone go.
Yes,
business is
understood.
going down. So we were blessed to not have to do that, and we actually hired people during that time as well.
Oh, that's
So-
great.
When we're looking at working with a buyer who's getting ready to make a purchase, we generally will tell them to go to whoever has their auto policy because they're going to get a better rate bundling. Do you have any thoughts to share on that?
Yeah, tell them to come to Jon Lambros.
I think that's a great idea.
No, I think the insurance relationship is always one of trust, right? So if you have your policies here with one agent, here with another, I'd say get those together with someone that you trust, and I would go with the person that you trust. Everyone has a problem with their insurance when either they have a rate increase that doesn't have an explanation, or
Right.
they have a claim and something that they thought was covered isn't covered, right?
Right.
So have someone that you trust that will go over those things with you, so you know what's going to happen.
Like
You
a
know,
good
when-
neighbor is
There
what
you
you're
go.
saying.
That's
Okay,
right.
Got it.
Exactly.
Hey, I was just going to say it's a good time for them to kind of reevaluate. So maybe if their policy isn't with you, they should probably take the time to call 2 or 3 other companies and make sure they're getting the best value, because insurance companies do change.
Yeah, I would say if you have an agent, you have a relationship, that's the best thing possible. That's going to prevent a lot of problems in your life. If you don't have that, if you're working with a call center, I would definitely encourage you to find an agent, find someone you can have a relationship with, for sure.
All right, guys, we're here with Jon Lambros, who is the team leader for Tom DeBerry State Farm Agency. We'll be back on the other side to talk a little bit more with John. Talk to you soon.
John, Tom, one of them.
Yeah, one of
will
them.
be here.
We'll be here. Welcome back to the I Am Real Estate Show with Sandra, Raymond, and John. We also have our guest, who is John he's a team leader for Tom DeBerry State Farm Agency.
And we were just talking on break a little bit. We have a lot of clients that come into town buying a house, and they're thinking about doing that short-term rental, an Airbnb and a vacation rental by owner. What advice do you have for them when it comes to insurance coverage?
Yeah, good question. Definitely call your agent because the standard homeowner's policy usually does not cover that kind of liability.
Okay.
So if you're doing an Airbnb, you don't have the extra coverage that you should get. There's a good chance that if there's a claim, that's not going to be covered, especially on the liability portion of the policy.
Okay.
There. And that's where things get really messy. You get in a lawsuit, someone's suing you, you find out you don't have coverage, that could ruin the next few years of your life there. So call in. I can't speak for other companies. I know that State Farm has a coverage tag. It's modestly priced. I think it's $80, $90 a year, and
that's
that'll
not bad.
extend all that coverage for you there.
And what does that type of coverage look like? What is differentiation between an Airbnb insurance coverage versus your regular homeowner's coverage?
Yeah, so the homeowners is just going to have personal liability coverage on it. And so if you have an Airbnb where money is exchanged from an insurance perspective, that's going to be considered a business exposure, right? Liability wise. So if you have something going on with the business and then there's a liability claim, you don't have any type of liability coverage because the homeowners by itself just covers that. And then usually most companies will exclude the physical coverage if they know that you're renting it out to someone and haven't made the proper adjustments there. So it's easy to get that covered. It's just a matter of calling your agent, letting them know what's going on, and making sure that you have the proper coverage there.
Yeah, sometimes we just don't know what to ask. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to that relationship that I was talking about with your agent, where you want someone who's calling you and saying, "Hey, come on in, let's review." They might not have anything specific to go over with you, but things just come up. Oh, you're renting your house out 3 months. Oh, I never thought to call my insurance agent, but he called you, had you come in, and that's where these things come up.
Right.
Would that be similar if you were renting just a room out to maybe a college student or something like that?
Yeah, there's some general coverage for roomers and boarders usually in the base policy. That's more of kind of incidental type coverage. If anything that's going to be pretty consistent, pretty regular, I would always just call in, talk with your agent and see what the situation is.
Okay.
I saw something before on flood insurance. Can we talk a little about flood insurance?
Sure.
And I looked at the property, and the property didn't say that it was under floodplain. Does that make a difference? Does it have to say, if it says on the floodplain, does that make a difference for the flood insurance as far as you're concerned?
It makes a difference in the price. But
I don't like that laugh at all.
Yeah. Well, and I'm speaking, so with State Farm specifically, we only broker policies through the National Flood Insurance Program. So if you call us for a flood insurance policy, we do some of the footwork and kind of help you, but it's really you're doing it through the government. So we just kind of joke that, we used to sell our own policies, and then we ended up kind of closing that down because the government made it a little bit difficult. And now we just work for, a few pennies for the government policies. There are private policies you can get, and we'll sometimes refer folks to an insurance broker for those, but we don't really interact with those a whole lot.
What about additional types of coverages that people may not think about but that are available?
Yeah, on the homeowners, the biggest ones when I'm doing reviews with clients that I come in contact with, one is just looking at, we'll call them riders or like a personal articles policy. Usually the base homeowners has a large amount of contents coverage.
Okay.
But there's certain limits on certain categories that just come standard. So like jewelry is a big one. It's jewelry and furs, but I've met one person in 12 years that has furs here in Tucson. Things like firearms, artwork, things of that nature. And there's usually pretty minimal limits on the standard policy.
Right.
So usually once we get into a conversation, we're talking with folks just about their life and what's going on in their house. They'll find that they want some more coverage, and you can get that accomplished pretty inexpensively with the rider.
Sounds really good when someone comes to meet you. When someone comes to sit and have a conversation with you, how long are they in your office? You sitting there when you first meet them?
Yeah, I tell our clients, I have 30 minutes of things I want to go over with you, and then the rest is up to you. So
Okay.
I always book out a client for an hour. We might end right at 30 minutes. We might be going an hour and 15. That's really just up to the client on how much we get into and how many questions they have.
One of the things that we also run into in real estate are the older homes that have typically cast iron plumbing that's heading out.
Like my house?
Oh, you have that. So you know where this conversation's
Nice,
going.
like Popeye.
I know that people can add some type of coverage onto their water bill, but usually it's more economical to add that onto your homeowner's policy, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends if the company offers it. State Farm just recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, started offering, we call it service line coverage. So sewer line, water line, electrical, gas, it technically extends over those. Where we really see it help folks is with that sewer line. If that line goes south, even with things like root incursion, we can help. It's $10,000 of coverage with us. So usually when you see, hey, we got to dig everything up, that's a $20,000 plus expense. So it's not covering all of that, but we can help with the bulk of that.
Do you always look at digging the line up and replacing it, or does that policy sometimes, will it cover if they're just I can't think of what you call it. I know they do the hydrojetting of the pipes, but also kind of a lining on the inside.
Yeah, I haven't come across one with the lining. I do know I just helped a client out that he just had maybe a 4 or 5 foot section.
Okay.
Which even then to pay someone, I think it was $4,000 or $5,000 just to get in there and get it cleaned out and get that section replaced. But we were able to help her with that.
Yeah, didn't you like how Sandra looked to us, for me and Ray, to give her the answer of the word, but we had nothing. So yeah, you're more sophisticated than us on that one.
Oh, that's great. That's
home
great,
warranty
John.
policies. Do you guys take care of that? Do that?
It's not technically a home warranty. We have, I call it a home warranty light, right? So your typical home warranty, it's going to be, what, $400 or $500 a year, depending on the policy
or
there.
6 or 7.
Right. Yeah.
Inflation, John. Think about inflation.
Yeah.
It's going to be $10,000 a year. So ours is $99. It's $100. And
Wow.
it's going to cover, we call it home systems protection. So
Okay.
it's home systems and permanently installed appliances. So if you have a gas range that you can slide out to vacuum behind, that's not permanently installed, right? If it's built into the countertop, that's a permanently installed appliance. But really what it's for, things like your HVAC system and your hot water heater. That's where
Okay.
we've really seen it help folks.
Yeah.
It'll extend coverage to things like mechanical breakdown. It's not going to cover wear and tear. No insurance product does wear and tear. But if your compressor blows in the middle of the summer, we're going to help kick in some money to help replace that.
What kind of coverages or limits do you have on those coverages?
Yeah, so if it's 15 years old or younger, so 14 and just a few days shy, then we're going to pay up to $50,000. If it's older than that, then we pay up to $2,000. So we just help you a little bit if it's an older system.
John, sorry, I apologize. How does someone get a hold of you?
You can look up just tomdeberry.com.
Okay.
Go to our website there, and you can reach out to me that way.
Okay.
Or you just give it the call to the office and ask for me, and should be there. There's only 6 of us on staff, so it's a local group, and you can always reach me.
Can you give us that phone number?
Yeah, 520-298-7111.
All right. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back after the break.
Thank
In case
you.
you didn't know we're with Jon Lambros.